The screen so well. My name, as Julie mentioned, is Rebecca Jennings, and I'm a hurricane program specialist with FEMA in Region 4, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview of my current career, how I got here, and what I do. And as Julie mentioned, I'm doing a Prezi, which is an online presentation format, so I actually can't see the chat. So if you have any questions, if you want to hold them till the end, I can kind of go through and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So as I mentioned, my name is Rebecca Jennings, and I'm a hurricane program specialist in FEMA Region 4, and I am a meteorologist. And how I got here is kind of a long sideways journey, so I'll take you through it. I, like a lot of people in my field, I always wanted to be a meteorologist ever since I was probably in the 3rd grade or so. And I always envisioned myself being at the National Weather Service. I thought that was my only option, as forecasting was to work for the National Weather Service, and I was super excited to do that. So I knew that that would require a lot of research and schooling and math and science, but I wasn't completely sure how bad it would be. But I knew that I was going to do this no matter what. So I ended up going to school right in my backyard for undergrad, Ohio University. And you'll see there, I got my Bachelor of Science in Communication. And, but wait a minute, Rebecca, you said you are a meteorologist. What happened? Well, what happened was I got to my first advanced calculus class, and it looked like this to me. And I was like, what? And my freshman year, I was completely overwhelmed, and I'd never really been challenged before, and didn't have great study habits because this was my first time really being challenged in that way. And as is known for being a weed out class, I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. So I decided to kind of stick with courses that came easily to me, and those were my communication courses. And although my husband will tell you differently, I did very well in communication and public speaking classes and things of that nature. He always likes to give me grief that I'm a communication major, but those classes to me were very interesting and exciting, and I did well in them. So I went on to get my degree in communication. And what do you do with a degree in communication? Well, everyone says, hey, you're a people person. So my first job was in computer sales, and yeah, that didn't last very long. It lasted for about 3 months before I knew this was not for me. I was actually working with people who were named nicknames after things out of like the Top Gun movie, and it was all very bizarre, and I never felt like I really belonged. So I found myself another job, which was a great job, working as a consultant for a company called Sapient, and they're an interactive firm, and got in at the ground level and learned a lot about the consulting industry, and worked for Fortune 500 companies, helping them build websites. And this was really in the heyday of the internet boom. First I started out on the project side of things, and then I moved over using my communication background and did a little bit of writing, and actually got to do some writing for websites like the American Cancer Society and things like that. So it was really exciting, and I loved my job. But you'll see I did my best to make this look like a bubble, because at the time, if you recall, the bubble burst. And all of a sudden, I was freshly out of college, my first real job, and I found myself laid off. So I had a real quandary and didn't know what to do, and decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to my true passion, and I'm going to be a meteorologist. But I didn't know how I was going to do that. So I talked to a lot of schools, and it all came back to this. And I didn't have enough math classes or science classes, and I couldn't really get into any schools or get in to talk to anybody until I decided to contact someone right here again in my backyard at Georgia Tech. And that's where I found my advisor, Dana Hartley. And she was so supportive and said, absolutely, this is doable. And she helped outline for me, these are the courses you'll need to take. These are our acceptance requirements, and it's going to be an uphill battle, but this is a dragon that you can slay, and you can do it. And she was very supportive. So I took the classes I needed to take to apply to Georgia Tech, took a GRE, got into Georgia Tech, and was very fortunate to graduate with my master's in Earth and Atmospheric Science. So by that time, it was pretty well clear that if I wasn't before, I was a full-fledged weather weenie, and I say that lovingly, and I got a job at the Weather Channel, where I'd actually interned during grad school, and I worked on the local on the 8s for a while after I had started forecasting. And I loved my job there, and one of the things I did on the local on the 8s was work with emergency managers during hurricane season to help them get information out on the local on the 8s. I don't know how familiar you all may be with the local on the 8s products other than the jazzy music, but there's a crawl on the bottom, and we used that to get out information about evacuations and whatnot. And it was really during the 2005 season after Katrina that I was moved and said, I want to do this even more. I want to get more involved with the emergency managers. I want more involved in this side of things. And that's when, shortly thereafter, I announced that I was going to get a job with FEMA. And literally, people said to me, you want to work where? Right after Katrina, people were dumbfounded. And but I said, you know, this is an incredible opportunity to blend my backgrounds in both meteorology and communication, to work directly with emergency managers who I've been involved with, and I understand, you know, their needs, and to make a difference, and hopefully, you know, be able to reach the public and potentially save lives. So I've been there now for about, let's see, since December 2007, and in my role as a hurricane program specialist, I've gotten to see quiet seasons, busy seasons, and a lot of other things during the off season, which we actually stay really busy. My favorite aspect of my role during hurricane season is I work as a team lead for the hurricane liaison team. And what the hurricane liaison team does is provides a way for the emergency management community to get information as quickly as they can and as accurate and understandable as they can be directly from the National Hurricane Center. So we actually have people who go down to the National Hurricane Center and work with the forecasters, and we get this information out to FEMA and the rest of the emergency management community. What you see here is a picture of the National Hurricane Center director with giving a video conference briefing. This is in our HLT, Hurricane Liaison Team room. So this is one of the video briefings that we do, and we do conference calls like this throughout the day. One of the most exciting things this season was when we were getting ready for one of these video conferences. We were sitting watching everyone mill about before the call got started, and all of a sudden, we saw everyone in the DC room stand up all at the same time, and someone in the room said, uh-oh, something's going on. And sure enough, President Obama came in and shook hands and participated in the briefing and asked great questions, and it was very exciting for us to be able to brief him, obviously. So when we're not in season, the rest of the time, we're very involved in planning, and what we do in the FEMA Hurricane Program are things called hurricane evacuation studies that we do in conjunction with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and our state partners at the state emergency management levels and our local county emergency managers. And we look at all aspects of the states and counties that are vulnerable to hurricanes, and most important being storm surge. And what you see here is a picture depicting Georgetown County. Some of you may be familiar with surge mapping, but we map the storm surge vulnerability by category of storm and run using the slosh model. If you're familiar with any slosh modeling, we use that to map scenarios for each category of storm, and then we work with the counties and the states to make evacuation zones that make sense. And we take a look at things like we do behavioral studies, take a look at things like evacuation response of the public and where they say they're going to go and when they may leave and what their needs are and what special populations exist, if there's any language barriers, the societal things that impacted an evacuation. We couple that up with, we have transportation experts who provide us insight about where some barriers may be for the evacuation process itself, so that we can better understand how long it will take people to get out of a vulnerable area. And all this information, combined with shelter information and other vulnerability and hazard data, goes to help the local emergency manager or the state, depending on the jurisdiction, be more prepared to call for an evacuation if they have to. So that's what we do in the off-season, because having to make a decision on the fly doesn't work. So the idea being that they have all of these resources mapped out for them literally in the off-season, so they have support tools when the time comes, should they be under this threat. Other than that, that pretty much encapsulates my role. I do some training and outreach in the off-season as well. We go to conferences and work with emergency managers on their planning. But that pretty much sums up what I do in my role. So I will switch over and see if there are any questions. I'll be happy to take any questions from you all. Marcy, I see your comment about having a fear of calculus. You know, I think it's very interesting because I was telling Julie that all through high school, I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a meteorologist, but my guidance counselors and my teachers, my physics teacher, I remember, no one knew what to do with me. They didn't know where to direct me, and they just said, oh, it's going to be a lot of math, and people always said to me, you're great at communication, and even my advisor, who was so supportive later on, said, wow, you have the highest language GRE score we've ever seen, but your math score might be the lowest. So everyone always told me, you're just not good at math. But I found out that math really is just a matter of how much work and effort you want to put into it. And it's not this inconceivable thing that can't be cracked. It's just a matter of time. And once you start to get into some of those upper level courses, it starts to make a lot of sense. So I really wish I'd had someone to support me earlier in school and not kind of get those ideas in my head. One book that I found, I can't remember the title, but I eventually found this book. It was a study guide, and it was amazing and really broke down math in simple terms, and it was great.